Why can't we show the same amount of concern for Yemen and the Uyghurs? When the conflict is this close to NATO borders, suddenly nuclear war becomes a suddenly very real possibility. Edit. Listen. I get that it's trendy for every problem to be about race or discrimination these days, but that simply isn't the case here. I've copied my response to the first person who made that argument for you here. The difference is firstly, the size of nuclear arsenals. There is an order of magnitude between the number of warheads non-EU, NA countries hold, and the number that Russia and the USA hold. Secondly, Putin has explicitly stated he is prepared to use a nuclear option if any country interferes with his invasions. If Putin sets a precedent here of nuclear warfare, the rest of Europe is fucked. This is why Europe is getting involved in this conflict, because their interests are threatened by nuclear war. I think it's because many view that part of the world is always being at war, so it's just more of the same. Whereas Ukraine is perceived as being a modern democracy where the people look familiar and live the way we do. I'm not saying it's right or fair, I'm only offering this as a possibility for the different reaction. Don't forget about military junta in Myanmar that has been systematically attacking the Rohingya and other ethnic minorities, basically trying to wipe them off the face of the earth. Because seeing is believing is a cliché for a reason. The invasion of Ukraine is very well publicized by both mainstream media and social media. Ukraine is a modern nation with decent telecommunications infrastructure and a free media bordered by other nations with the same. The situations in Yemen and Xinjiang just don't have as much opportunity to come to light, either due to a lack of infrastructure, language barriers, and active suppression by local governments. Also, Ukraine is fighting off an invasion from a foreign power, which presents a cleaner, more broadcastable narrative than a messy civil war or racial, religious genocide. I think it's because this has the most potential of turning into World War III. The wars in Yemen and Uyghurs, yes, are awful, but don't have the potential to start a WW. Because this is the closest we've been to a potential world war, so people are on high alert because this could actually affect the whole world. Truth is, most people is not paying a lot of attention to Ukraine, but rather to the guy who've threatened Europe with a nuclear war. It may sound very cynical, but none of the other conflicts are as much as a threat to pretty much the entire world. So yeah, sad reality, but the vast majority of people won't bat an eye unless it's an end of the world situation. My guess is that it's easier to care about a sovereign nation getting invaded by an already demonized country. Also, I think because it's so new and there's so many ongoing developments that it's easier to want to know more regarding Yemen and the Uyghurs. That's all old news, at least to us. Definitely not to them. Side note, that's not really important, but I've been getting so much Hong Kong vibes from this situation. Remember when Reddit went crazy over that for some time? IDK. Just something I've been thinking of. This is an invasion of an otherwise stable democracy. The invaders are also a world superpower with ambitions of taking over a large swath of Europe. There are a number of other differences, but that's probably the biggest factor here. People always say stuff like this whenever the world collectively reacts to something. Just because it's viral, front page news doesn't mean people don't care about anything else. I do feel terribly for them, but I literally don't know exactly what they're going through. There's no footage. There's no real news. We don't get reports from the Uyghur people themselves. All I hear is second-hand accounts. China is doing an amazing job of keeping their genocide secret. I didn't watch the Olympics to boycott what China is doing, but how do I protest? China makes everything. They're the real superpower in the world now. There are a lot of reasons. The implication of nuclear war. The perception of war-torn areas as being always in that state. And finally, and I think this is one of the biggest reasons, the social media disconnect. Right now, millions of people are posting and tweeting and sending messages about, to and from Ukraine. Information on what is happening there isn't being censored, and the internet is absolutely saturated with the amount of people in the area posting about it. Unlike the conflict and atrocities surrounding the Uyghur people and other areas of the globe, we're getting videos. We're getting more first-hand accounts. It's much harder to ignore. Is it right to only care about that which we see over and over again? No. But it does make a hell of a difference to how we're reacting differently. I would say to some extent it is because as is Russia. Russia was the enemy for so long. And with the nuclear capability, it means them starting a war is scary. China persecuting the Uyghur people started out quiet and with no publicity. This attack into Ukraine is so blatant. In a few weeks, Ukraine will probably be ignored, unfortunately. We have been invaded by a nuclear power who is psychotic enough to threaten the West with using it. That's why they are concerned. Also, the Budapest Memorandum. We were guaranteed safety by some of those countries, including the one who invaded, when we gave up our nukes. Because the events around those groups aren't going to lead to nuclear war. A nuclear superpower invading a sovereign country very well could. You gotta ask yourself first. Why didn't you post anything about Yemen before? Now Ukraine is under attack and you got the question in mind? It's all about exposure. China and being shitty to its people have been going on for centuries. At this point, the only thing governments can do is sanction China, which even if happened, China wouldn't gaff. As well, there was already a boycott towards the 2022 Olympics, and it's kinda hard to support a cause you really can't do much about, like caring about the starvation, poverty and disparity of people in North Korea. What can you do? Lastly, not to sound cold, but an invasion is a little more alarming and concerning at the moment, which can have the potential to be a world war and greatly affect many countries. TLDR, it's not about who cares for what, but what's most important to focus caring on at the moment. I honestly don't understand where the idea that we just don't care about them comes from. Every single person I know, be it left or right-leaning, all condemn China for its actions. I didn't know a single person who wasn't bothered by the fact that we held the Olympics there with all the shit they're pulling. I find that the people here, USA, care, but the government doesn't, and so nothing comes of it. It's just Ukraine, not the Ukraine. I live in Western Europe, and what's happening in Ukraine will determine the future of our entire continent. Putin is in acute and imminent danger to our security, and we cannot stand idly by.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. TooAfraidToAsk is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.